Good afternoon. Welcome to today's Instagram Live as we have a special guest, LaWanda, who I'm so excited to have her introduce herself and share her story is. I've met her several years ago, so over the years our relationships grow, which is amazing. But to continue the relationships, especially with women who aren't in the same state as you, is just amazing. And having that connection and how I met her, and we will share how we met in just a couple of minutes as we're tuning in live again this morning. Just bear with us as we are waiting for LaWanda to join us. So good morning, LaWanda. I see you on. Do you see the video request? So just bear with us as we are waiting for LaWanda to tune in. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Yay!
Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Good and you?
I'm good. I see that like just when I met you sitting in Capitol Hill's room.
I know. We go a little ways back. I love it.
We do. Actually, my mom was here this morning and she's like, who's your IG live with? And like she described you before she even saw your picture. I'm like, how do you remember that? You don't remember anything, but you remember that?
Thank you. Yes. That's awesome. Well, tell mommy I said hey.
I will. So how are you doing this morning, this afternoon?
I am doing good this morning. I'm doing really good this morning. Had a good night's sleep, had a light breakfast. I'm doing good. And I've been excited about this all morning.
Oh, well, we're so excited to have you on as a special guest. As you know, just as everybody's tuning in, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Tracy. Today we have LaWanda as our special guest. And LaWanda and I have a relationship. 6 years ago, I happened to meet her as I was speaking on Capitol Hill on the Patient Education Act. And after standing in front of a group of people that I had no idea who they were, so intimidating. Is like I had just started my journey, and I remember you saying, you can do it. I went on and I spoke, and when we were done, we just started talking, and ever since then we followed each other, and I've watched your experience and all of your strength and encouragement and empowering to all of the women in our community. And I think it's so imperative that we all come together and share our stories and share what's really going on and how we need to be our own advocate. And I know you can relate to that. So,
Absolutely can.
we're going to do just like a short introduction of who you are, and then we can go ahead and get started and just have a basic conversation. And I want everybody who's tuning in live, if you guys have questions, please feel free to send them in the DM. We will definitely answer them. And go ahead. You can go ahead and start.
Absolutely. Well, as you can see, my name is LaWanda Fountain. I am a 12-year and a 2-year triple negative breast cancer survivor. I'm also BRCA positive. I didn't find out I was BRCA positive until I was diagnosed in 2019 for the second time. I think it was about after 10 years from my first diagnosis. It had been discovered in readings and in the news that they had been doing research on BRCA genes and other genes, genetic markers that have been coming up in women that have been diagnosed with breast cancer. It prompted them to broaden the spectrum of the BRCA study to see what's going on. So when I was diagnosed the second time, I took it upon myself when I met with my oncology surgeon to ask him, like, do you think I should do my genetics test again? He was like, I was going to tell you to do so. He's like, because I looked in your records and saw that you did it 8 years ago and it came back negative across the board for any BRCA markers. So I said, okay. I did the test the second time. It came back the day before my lumpectomy was scheduled, and it came back BRCA. And I was blown. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. The only thing I knew to do was to, put my big girl britches on and say, okay, this won't be a lumpectomy. This will be a double mastectomy. Because even though I know it doesn't cancel cancer ever coming back, it lowers the percentage of it reoccurring or occurring somewhere down the line, which we pray never happens. So when you were talking about advocating earlier, that's why I advocate like I do. That's why I try and study what I can study and learn what I can learn, so I can be that person for the next one that comes around and says, you know, I just got this call. The one call that we hate to get and wouldn't wish on anyone. Other than that, I'm an African American woman. I'm in my 40s. I was originally diagnosed in my mid 30s, so I'm considered part of a couple of organizations and still are part of a few breast cancer organizations that reach out to young survivors as well as those middle-aged or older. And I like to live life, or try to live life, to the best of my abilities. What my body allows me to do, that's what I do, whether it's sitting and chilling and coloring in the coloring book, or out and about taking a walk, into some fresh air, hanging out with friends when I can and safely, especially in this age of COVID.
You know, I have a question. Like, when we talk about genetic testing, you say it was 8 years ago, your original test, because I remember meeting you and you didn't have BRCA, right? When I met you, were you BRCA at the time? No, right?
No, when we met, I was not, as far as I knew, I was not BRCA. So I was originally diagnosed in 2009. I didn't take the genetics test until like 2011, I think, because I didn't find out till 2010 that my mother's birth mom had died of breast cancer. She was like in her late 30s. And this was like in the 1940s when this happened. So that's what prompted me to go ahead and get the genetics test. When the results came back from that genetics test, it came back negative across the board. There was nothing showing.
And
so when we met,
what year was that?
When she died, that was in the late 40s when my biological grandmother died. The only person that I knew of in my family was my dad's baby sister, and she's still a survivor. She's at least a 15-year breast cancer survivor.
So
Go ahead.
So my question is, when you had your test and it came back negative, did it say inconclusive or did it just say negative?
Just said negative.
So it's interesting because we've had this conversation with like some genetic testing companies and, you know, talking about it. I think it's so imperative. And, you know, do we retest? When do we retest? You know, obviously genes develop over time, but different labs and different results, you know. So in a way, thank God you were your own advocate. Your doctor said, yes, they were going to order it, but you brought it to their attention, right? Because you know you have to be your own advocate in this day and age.
Exactly.
You know, just learning
the
process, obviously, after you had your first diagnosis to your reoccurrence, and now you have to face all this other stuff that you didn't expect to face.
Exactly. And it makes it, if you've never been here, I think it's harder if you've never been here. If you've never been on this road, you've never been on this journey, it's harder. It was just a little easier because I had been on the road before. I've gone to conferences, I've spoken to people, been on Capitol Hill advocating, to where I knew just enough to know what questions to ask. Which I think this time around helped me a lot.
But you know, like, what if for the women, like you and I, right? For the women that don't have a voice, for the women who don't have a voice, right? And who don't know how to advocate for themselves after a diagnosis, I think like this is our true story, right? On why advocate, why get retested. You know, I don't know about your family culture, but I know several family cultures don't talk about their history, right? Like you said, you found out later on, which really isn't a benefit to us, whether you're a survivor or you don't carry the genetic mutation, having this information and talking about your family history and now finding out your BRCA and sharing with your family, like those are all things that need to be connected better in our community.
Yes.
So we're
It
educated.
does.
And it's just not BRCA, as you and I know, right? There's PALB2, there's ATM, there's all these other mutations that are developed, like when to
Exactly.
get retested or when to get tested. There's one thing that I would like to share with this genetic testing is, My Gene Council has a platform for women who test negative, test positive, or test inconclusive, where you send them your results and they are uploaded into a database and they keep you informed whether new mutations are found, new studies are being launched. I think it's like $35 a year, if I'm right. And I'll post it after because sending this information for children, for family members, gives you all these updates. So like on pancreatic screenings, right? BRCA, what do we do?
Yeah.
There's no screenings, right? But there's clinical trials that are preparing us for what to come. Like we need to be more involved and be more in our know by advocates like yourself and, BRCA to make sure that we're sharing this information.
Exactly. And I think not just that, but we also need to let our doctors know that, look, we're looking, we're reading, we're checking up. So don't just think I'm just a patient coming in to get checked out and I don't really care. I do care because this is my life. So I think when we let our doctors know that, we're reading, we know what's going on, it helps them treat us that much better. I think we get a little bit extra care because they know, look, she wants to get well. He wants to get well. They're not trying to go through this the hard way. So let me do my extra best to be the doctor that they're paying me to be.
And that's the thing.
Doctors know that it helps in the long run.
Right. And that's why we have to be our own advocates. Like knowledge is power, and no, none of us like reading all the time, but like go on IG calls, go on Zoom calls, go on educational calls. I could say at BRCA Strong, we have them 1 to 3 a week. Make sure you're educated. We don't only focus on the genetic mutation. We focus on cancer, breast and ovarian cancer, and other cancers that are involved. But, treating a woman as she's whole, right? That's what we deserve. It's not about the breast. It's about the woman and treating us from head to toe. Now that we know we carry a genetic mutation, or now that we know we have cancer, what's next? Is there an opportunity for fertility to rule out embryos that we're passing? Osteoporosis, like, let's talk about the whole body and the whole woman and not just focus on, the whole picture, because we're a whole picture. We're not just about our breast. We're not about what's just down there. And it's important to make sure, the advocating is being done and our voices are being heard. And, one reason that I really brought you on is your inspiration just blows my mind. You've been there, you've done that, you hit it 12 years ago, you nailed it on the head 2 years ago. And maybe we could talk a little bit about your experience. I know I met you on Capitol Hill and where we met, but like maybe you want to talk a little bit of your background to share the education, where you are now, and other women hopefully will get inspired to follow what we're doing, because I think that your impact is huge, and standing up for who you are, knowing your mortality rates, knowing the clinical trials, knowing the true inside of the systems that many women don't get the opportunity to know, but you've been blessed to have this opportunity. Like when I tell people, like I've spoken on the Patient Education Act, they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if more of us had that opportunity, I think our healthcare system would be very different, right? Maybe for breast reconstruction, there would be a straight line across. Maybe it'd be where everybody had the same options in their first doctor's appointments, like maybe there's so much more to the system that we could create by our voices who have been impacted and who have walked the walk and tried to make a difference, continue to do that.
Yeah. So the beginning was scary because I didn't know. I just didn't know. When I got the call, I was freaked out. I left from work because I got the call while I was at work. The first time I was diagnosed, and I didn't know what to do. I called my aunt like the day I went to pick up my scans so I could take her to my first appointment with the man that ended up being, with the doctor ended up being my surgeon. And called my aunt and told her. Then she thought I was joking. And I'm like, no, auntie, I'm not joking. I got the car diagnosed with breast cancer. She was only able to tell me so much because she didn't remember a lot of stuff that happened. But over the years of going through treatment, coming out of treatment, meeting new people, joining organizations like YSC, doing the Avon walks and meeting people that way, it put me in a whole other mindset. It's just like, okay, even though you take care of other people and, you know, you've got family around everything, you need to focus on you. One of the only ways you're going to get through this and heal is if you pay attention to you. Some people may say, oh, that's selfish. I was like, well, sometimes it's good to be selfish. If you're not selfish, you're not paying attention to you. You're not listening to your mind. You're not listening to your body. I've learned to listen to my body more than my mind, because sometimes your brain will lie to you and tell you, you can go do this and such and so, and then your knees start to hurt. It was just like, yeah, I should listen to my body and not my brain. But even along the ways, going to different conferences, I've learned and I've seen the growth in people that look like me and others that have started, like once they see you go and the information that you bring back and how you felt about the environment that you were in for like 2 or 3 days, then they're like, you know what? Let me know when that next conference is. Let me know when that next talk is. I'll come with you, or I'll sign up, I'll register, I'll be a part of it. So over these like 12 years, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to me, and it's allowed me to be a blessing to others, to where they can see how I walk this walk and they can follow suit if they ever get that call. And even for those who never get the call, whether they're a pre-survivor or what we like to call co-survivors, those that walk the walk with us, it also shows them as like, look, I can take this walk, I can do this journey, I can hold her hand, or I can prepare myself for what may or may not come. I can take, like for a pre-survivor, I can take that step forward to advocate for myself because of what my mother or what my aunts went through. Right. And I can be proactive and be about me. That way I may just be here a little longer for my family and my friends. Someone who gets the call saying that they have breast cancer, it'll help them. It's like, look, she did it. She's still standing. Right. And something that I haven't said in a long time, but still holds true. It's not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. And I think the fear of, because we were talking about generations that, you know, didn't talk about it. It was like the family secret. My generation, and that includes like a lot of the females that I have met on this journey, we chose to break that, what you might as well call a generational curse. We chose to break that and be like, look, we need to talk about it. I was like, because if I had known what I know now, could have been different. I probably wouldn't have been so lackadaisical in doing my monthly checks around my period. I would have, like when my aunt was diagnosed, I didn't know a lot, but I like watching her go through, I learned just enough to know what to look out for if it ever happened to me, but not everyone has that. Depending on the your parents' generation or your grandparents' generation, depends on if they still hold on to, like, no, that's the family secret, or we didn't talk about that. There's nothing written anywhere unless you find great aunt so-and-so who has everything written in the Bible, in the family Bible, who was born, when they died, what they died of. If you don't have that, it makes it that much harder. So then you end up confused and scared. I try to stay away from the scared part. I was a little confused because they tell you, like, first they tell you you're diagnosed with breast cancer. If you've never been in the world, as far as you know, all you hear is breast cancer. You don't realize there's more than a handful of different types of breast cancer. Then when they tell you that, it's like, okay, what does that mean?
Right.
And I think once I started feeling comfortable in asking questions, it helped me that much more. So when the next person came, and I pray one day that ends where there's no other person that comes and says, you know, I got this call. But when the next person comes, it's like, okay, I can tell you this much. I can direct you to this person. I can direct you to this doctor. I can direct you to this organization. And, you know, and go from there. It's like I said, these 12 years, it's been a ride. It's been a learning experience. I'm still learning. And what?
When you talk about it's been obviously a learning experience, and then just found out 2 years ago that you had BRCA, how did that change for you? How did that change in your life, in your mind? Like, I know you said once you found out you were BRCA, you're like, I'm going to have a mastectomy. But what else? What went along? Were you explained what comes along with that it's more than breast and ovarian cancer? Were you explained more in details? Because I know obviously over the years it's changed. But like for you having that diagnosis and then 12 years later finding out, well, now I'm BRCA positive, like what did physically and emotionally and mentally, how did that impact you? And then how did you move?
Hold on one second. It was, I think if like I said, if I hadn't known anything, I would have been asking questions all over the place, or at least where to look, to read for myself, to study for myself, you know, what BRCA is, what it can or cannot do.
Right.
I knew BRCA could lead to other breast cancers down the line. I knew BRCA could lead to the possibility of ovarian cancer. I didn't know there are other cancers that can be attached to BRCA until I met with an oncology gynecologist.
Okay.
I have written somewhere what he said to look out for, but because it's not in my head right now. But I did learn that after the diagnosis, when I was going through, I think I had just finished chemo when I finally met with him. And when he told me that, it was just like, okay, we got a little bit more learning to do. We got a little bit more studying to do. We got a little bit more taking care of me to do, and a little bit more to actually pay attention to. We can't be lackadaisical about our comings and goings. We can't be lackadaisical about our life and our living, especially if we're trying to be here. Like, I was telling a friend the other day, I don't know what God has in store for me, but I know it's something big. And in order for me to get there and do that thing, I need to be here. So I need to take care of me. So when he told me about that particular cancer, I was like, okay. He was like, but because I had a salpingo oophorectomy in 2014. So I'd already had my ovaries and fallopian tubes removed, but that was from something else that was already going on in my body. We're not sure if something was happening before I was originally diagnosed in 2009, or if this is something that happened after that first diagnosis and after those first rounds of chemo, because even though chemo leaves, it doesn't leave. It still can affect stuff further down the line. We just don't know exactly what. We wish doctors could tell us in the beginning, or like your chemo nurse can tell you in the beginning, look out for this, and this, but they can't because everyone's different. But When I
Did you
told
see a
my
genetic
oncologist,
counselor? Did you see
hmm?
a genetic counselor?
Yes. I
Okay.
saw a genetic counselor. Like when I did it in 2011, I saw a genetics counselor. Then we went over, because I had talked to my aunt beforehand. We went over like the whole family history. I got what I could from my mother's side. My aunt was, like I said, was my dad's baby sister, so I got the majority of the family history from her side. Um, it kind of helped me understand why when I originally asked my last GYN about getting a mammogram when I was like 34, 35, why he said no, because the family history was so lacking. It wasn't what they were looking at as being a strong family history
Right.
to justify me going ahead and getting a mammogram at like 34, 35. But I told them, I gave them my family history. We did everything. Like I said, we did the test. It came back negative across the board. When I did it again the second time in 2019, they had my record still. I was like, nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed, there's been a couple more deaths in the family. I was like, but both of them were natural. There was no cancer involved, no other diseases or illnesses involved. When they said, okay, let's go ahead and, did the blood test, sent it in. I don't even want to call it a divine delay. All I know, I was tripping because they tell you like within 2 weeks, you should have the results. In 3 weeks, the genetics nurse was calling. I'm so sorry, Miss Fountain. They say they're backed up. Trying to get the info as soon as possible. I'm like, okay. Part of me said, I was like, you know what? There's something there. I don't want there to be anything there, but there's something there, and we'll just figure it out, when it happens. But I prepared myself. Was like, look, if it does come back this, even though I don't want it to, but if it does come back this, I'm changing my surgery. It won't be a lumpectomy. It'll be a double mass. And that's only because of the education that I'd gotten before in years past. It's only because of the sessions that I've sat in years past, and listening to others who have gone through, who were what I am now.
Right.
And so a lot of that helped. But like I said, for someone who's just coming into this, it's hard. And I think if you can bring someone with you, like those first few appointments, to kind of hold your hand and to take notes, because your mind is in the world. You're not thinking straight. All you still hear is that you have breast cancer.
Right.
Bring someone with you. Take notes. Ask questions. If you don't remember your questions, write them down. Bring them with you to your next appointment, and start learning from there, and growing from there. But yeah, it's been, and it still is a learning experience. I think I kind of felt a little better. I was still mad that I got diagnosed the second time because I didn't understand it. Right. But I felt better once I knew, because I kind of knew what steps I need to take. Because of the ovarian cancer portion of it, all of my doctors were like, well, since you had your ovaries removed already, that kind of lessens the percentage, or it lowers the percentage and kind of lessens the chance of this possibly happening. One, this happening again, and two, of you getting ovarian cancer. But we will still monitor you. We will still, check you out. You still need to keep an eye. And like I said, once I spoke to the gynecologist, and he told me about that whole other type of cancer that can occur, it was like, okay, let me take a step back and not run full throttle like I know everything, because now I don't know everything anymore. Right. You take a step back and, chill out and learn for myself, and keep an eye. Can no one take care of you but you? You've got doctors and family and everything, but can no one take care of you like you can take care of you? Can no one see what's going on with you but you? You see first. You feel first. So yeah, it's been, and it still is, a learning experience.
you know, that's one of the reasons, like, to connect with other women and the right organizations, right? Like knowing that your resources are real, knowing that you
Yes.
have that understanding and can connect with other women who are going through the same thing you're going through, right? You know, and making sure that you guys are all educated and having groups on Facebook and having Instagram and having meetups. And I know obviously COVID-19 has changed a lot for a lot of nonprofits and
Yes.
local
Yes.
get-togethers. I know personally this year we have not had any yet. I'm still on the fence of what we're going to do. Even consider, you know, just doing small get-togethers, but it requires everybody to have COVID testing first. And I mean, while
Yes.
I'm not enjoying it, I am enjoying it because we can all be together still face to face. Thank God for technology, you know. But like we talk
Right.
about, you know, make sure you're your own advocate. Make sure you ask questions. You know, if you're unsure of what the BRCA gene is, do you carry it? You know, I know you can go on our website at brcastrong.org and see all those
Right.
resources. You know, go on Be Bright Pink, take the genetic testing, test to see if you qualify. You know, there's so many resources out there.
Exactly.
Take these resources. Even
Yep.
Force, you can go on Force to do it. Look for availabilities for mammograms. If you can't afford them, find a local organization. There's organizations out there. Here in South Florida in Coconut Creek, June 5th, we're funding 20 women mammograms for underinsured
Right.
and
I saw
underinsured
that.
women. You know, keep fighting, be your voice. Don't let that determine your next step in your journey. Breast cancer doesn't quarantine. Doesn't quarantine, ladies. Make sure that you are stepping up, doing your self-exams. You know, self-breast exams are really not understood by women in our community. We see them on
No.
Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram. They're like this, like this, like this. No, ladies, take your 30 minutes. Do your self-breast exam once a month.
Yeah.
Know your body. Know the difference. If you
Right.
feel a change, contact your doctor. You know,
Exactly.
as we're closing out, I want to touch on some. First, I want to thank you very much for coming on, sharing your story,
Yes.
making the difference. And, you know, let's talk about the different mortality rate in African American Black women, right? 40% higher than anybody else. Ladies, you're out there. We can educate. Knowledge is power. We can't drag it to your appointments. Get those appointments, join clinical trials, make more treatments
Yes.
become available, you know. And LaWanda, maybe you want to touch base a little bit on like clinical trials and the importance of joining and why it's so important for an African American Black woman to make the change in these trials to give us more information. And the same thing with Hispanic women, right? We need more
Yeah.
of you. We need diversity. We need evidence.
Clinical trials need a diversity because of years past. I found out, like I said, going to conferences and sitting in on talks, we realized in years past that a lot of companies don't, a lot of research companies don't reach out to African Americans, Asian Americans, Latino Americans. They don't. They reach out to what they know. They reach out to particular age groups and go from there. And then are confused when, like, their studies are glowing at the end. But when you put the product out there and you give it to someone that looks like me or you, it doesn't work. And then they're confused. And then I found out it was a few years ago. I was at, it might have been an LBVC conference where they said that these researchers are now made to say who was in their studies. Were there African Americans in your study? Were there Latino Americans in your study? Were there whites in your study? Did you study women and men? Just women. If it was just women, what age group? They're being now made to say, this is who we research. This is who the research was with. A few of the women in my world are actually in or have been in clinical studies. And I think it's great because they're able to show, look, we're a part of this, so you can be a part of this. One. Two, we're a part of this, so if you ever end up on this journey that we're on, we're letting you know that this particular thing works. So ask your doctor about it. I've been a part of clinical studies, not as far as drugs are concerned, but as far as education is concerned, of our soon-to-be doctors and doctors that have been in the business for decades, of how to talk to us, how to treat us when we come in for the first time with this brand new diagnosis. Don't talk to me like we're your colleagues. We don't know what you're saying to us. Talk to us. Talk to me like you would talk to your sister or your mother about this new thing that's going on in me, kind of thing. I've been in studies like that to see, you know, what can be done. How can we train doctors, like the doctors to be, and the doctors that are already, you know, in this world. They've been doctors for like 5, 10, 50 years. You know, so there's a lot out there. You just have to reach out, because a lot of doctors is either the researchers don't go to the doctors, or the doctors know about it but don't say anything. If you do the homework yourself and bring it to your doctor is more likely to go and study for themselves and be like, oh, that could be something good for you. Yeah, let me research it. I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and we'll see about getting you in that study. That's a whole other way of advocating for yourself. You got to do the work. Going through treatment, but you've got to do the work if you want your outcome to be better, and then those that come after you, if you want their outcome to be better, if you want to choose their to do chemo, they never have to face radiation, then yeah, find out what's there, and, you know, put your foot in, throw your hat in the ring and say, yeah, I want to be a part of this study. I want to be a part of this research. I want to be a part of this clinical trial. Talk to your doctor. Your doctor's like, yeah, that works. Then go do it. Go do it. You'll be surprised of how much it's not just a help for you, but it's a help for the ones coming after you.
Right. Exactly. Just, you know, be your own advocate. Knowledge is power, and make sure you're looking for the right resources and going to grassroots organizations and going to women like LaWanda who are out there advocating is just really the most impactful thing that you can do, and empowering and inspiring, just to continue to educate and make sure we're sharing stories and knowing the women to have their options, you know, breast reconstruction options, genetic testing options, hysterectomy options, and, you know, just making sure that we can do what we need to do to get through our journeys, and making sure that we remind ourselves, you know, self-care isn't selfish. It's okay to feel the feels, as Dr. Alexia says. Let your body feel the feels. Allow yourself. Be present, and sometimes do what you need to do and take that time, whether it's go in nature, whether it's go for a walk, whether it's listen to music. Do what's just best for you. You know, and everybody has a different approach and how they handle stress, and sometimes going on calls can be overwhelming, but reaching out and having that one advocate available is so important. And I know at BRCA Strong, you know, we offer that. So if we can help anybody in any way, we're always here for you. And, you know, if you're headed in for a mastectomy or surgery and you're looking for a pre-mastectomy care package, we are always willing to help women, fund them these amazing care packages to help them feel whole again and help them feel beautiful and get them through the process. And also, you know, Bras for Brave Beauties, which is a bra program and lymphedema sleeve. As many women don't talk about lymphedema or can't afford the garments, we are here to support you at BRCA Strong. And I want to really thank you, LaWanda, so much for coming on. It was amazing.
Absolutely.
I wish it was in person. You know, wish it was in person on Capitol Hill again, but we'll have to reunite.
I know. That would be great. That would be great. It's been an honor sitting and talking with you, Tracy. It really has. I love sitting back and seeing how BRCA Strong has grown, how you have grown, how the door has opened up for not just previvors, but survivors. And letting them both know, especially previvors, knows like, look, we see you. we that have actually been diagnosed and gone through and are surviving and thriving, we see you. We thank you for taking the time out to take care of yourself and to teach others around you, you know, what to look for, because even though no one ever wants you to live how we're living, to deal with what we're dealing with, we thank you for taking the time out to take care of yourself and know what you're looking for. So I'm grateful for you. I know there are many out there that are grateful for you. I did see the mastectomy care packages. I'm like, shoot, I wish I had known the other year. I would have asked them, like, look, hook me up. But I'm glad you're doing that, because people don't realize those are the little things that help in our journey, that help us heal.
Right.
Those are the little things that help us heal.
And who helps us?
Thank you.
Who helps us get in that mindset to heal, right? And that's my biggest thing, and that's why I created them. You know, we're going to treatments alone. When you go home, you have family and friends over, right? Like, you want to look semi-decent. You don't want to look like you're going through something. Like, it's bad enough, right? Like, when you're going through treatment and you're sick and then you have a mastectomy, like, what can we do? And I feel like helping women feel whole again is definitely my niche. None of these awesome items were available 6 years ago. And I'm like, again, helping women feel whole is so imperative through this journey. So if you or any of your women ever need help, you of course know how to reach me at any time.
Oh, absolutely.
I really appreciate you just sharing and being open and making sure that more women like you really make that difference and can come out and share their stories, because we need to change that mortality rate, right? We need to get more screening changes.
We need to get more screening. And one last thing, because I know you were talking about BRCA strong, but I live in the DMV, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia area. I live in the DMV. Off the top of my head, we have Breast Care for Washington, who they serve the insured and uninsured in Washington, D.C. So if you need a mammogram, if it's time for a mammogram, call and check them out. There's a store called Cherry Blossom Intimates. They are awesome and amazing. Soon I'll be scheduling my appointment to get resized again after my DIEP flap. I finally had phase 2 of DIEP flap. So as I'm healed, once I heal from that, I'll be going to check them out. They have it to where they work with the majority of the insurance companies to help pay for your garments. They have mastectomy and lumpectomy garments. They have breast forms. They have custom-made breast forms that can match your skin tone. If you have freckles, they have freckles on it. If your nipples were a certain shade, they do the whole 9 yards. They are absolutely amazing. I love them to death.
Definitely. I follow them on IG. I know them. They're amazing. If you're in that area and you need any of those resources, reach out to me and I can send LaWanda a message or get you those resources. Again, ladies, let's utilize these resources and share them with our family and friends, because you never know who can't afford a mammogram or who can't afford a post-mastectomy or lymphedema sleeve. And those are the things that really, truly make an impact on women who have gone through a journey. Again, like we say, Purvivor, Survivor, Thriver, Metastatic. You know, it's the little things that we don't think of that really make that impact.
Right.
Perfect. Well, great seeing you again, and we'll be in touch soon.
And you too.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
You too, babe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.